In this chapter of movies, we're going to take a look at how you can organize your digital image assets using Adobe Bridge. Adobe Bridge is a new program that ships both with the standalone version of Photoshop CS2 and with the Adobe Creative Suite. To access Adobe Bridge, you're going to choose File, Browse from Photoshop CS2 or any Adobe Creative Suite 2 application, or you can click the Go to Bridge folder icon beside the palette well, and that's going to automatically open up Adobe Bridge. Now, if you're looking at this and you've used previous versions of Photoshop, this might look similar because it's based on the file browser that used to be in Photoshop. Basically, what Adobe's done is taken the file browser and put it into its own application. The benefit of doing this is that not only does it serve Photoshop CS2, it now serves all Adobe Creative Suite applications. The benefit of that is that you can access it from all programs and you can view content created in all programs from within Adobe Bridge. In this movie, we're going to take a look at how the general interface is structured and different ways that you can view your images in Bridge. Later on in this movie training, we'll take a look at how you can organize, rate, and label your images, as well as use keywords. So for right now, let's just focus on the interface. You can see that Bridge, like all other applications, has a menu structure up here at the top. You can see that we also have this pop-up menu, which allows us to navigate to different places on our computer. So let's choose Macintosh hard drive, and you can see that that's automatically taking me to the Macintosh hard drive and showing me the contents of that particular folder. I can click the pop-up menu again. There we go. Let's choose desktop and return back to our desktop where we just see our exercise files folder. Another way we can navigate to our folders is by using the folders panel. There are 6 panels in Adobe Bridge: folders, favorites, preview, metadata, keywords, and over here on the right side, the preview panel. And basically you can use the folders panel to pretty much navigate through all the folders you have on your computer to find exactly what you're looking for. Now, I personally find that I like to use the favorites panel to be able to find content. The reason for that is because I often find myself gravitating towards 1 or 2 places where I store files on my computer, and having to, sift through either the folder structure or the folder structure here in the pop-up menu can be a little bit time consuming. So what I like to do is set up specific folders to use in my favorites. So I'm going to double click the exercise files folder. And let's just add our O2 Bridge folder to our favorites panel here because we're going to be using it a lot throughout this training. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag it onto my favorites panel. And you can see that it's basically going to allow me to put it above, on, or below the desktop. Let's put it below. You can see what happens is it basically puts it underneath the desktop. It has to do with the order. I can also click and drag to rearrange this. Now let's grab our color folder. Instead of positioning it above or below, let's position it on the folder so it's highlighted and see what happens. You can see that that O3 folder disappeared, but if we click the Bridge folder, there you can see our O3 color folder. So that's something important to keep in mind. Where you position the folder in the favorites panel is going to dictate if you position it above the folder, below the folder, or inside the folder. So the inside the folder is the one you want to watch out for if you don't want to move stuff around. So I'm going to just grab this O3 color folder, put it inside the desktop, go to my desktop, and just click and drag and position it inside the exercise files folder. So that's a little sneak preview into how easy it is to move stuff around on Adobe Bridge. For right now, though, let's just click the O2 Bridge folder so that we can take a look at what happens on the preview panel. As you can see, basically what happens is as we click a folder, the preview panel updates so that we can take a look at a series of thumbnails to show us the contents of what's in that folder. Now, getting back to the idea of these panels, as I mentioned, there are 5 panels on the left and then the preview panel on the right. I can resize how big or how small I want these panels to be. You can see that as I do that, the previews update. So if there was 6 to a line, it'll bump to 5 or to 4 as I expand the contents of these. So depending on what you want to see the most, you can increase or decrease the size of these. Something else that you can do is also combine them together. So for example, if I don't want the preview panel to be on its own, I can click and drag, and when I see the blue outline around the perimeter of the panels, I can release, and now you can see that my preview, keywords, and metadata are combined together, and my favorites and folders are combined together. I can click and drag and move it up to the top as well. Now if I want to return it to the default, I can choose Window, Workspace, reset to default workspace. And now you can see I'm back to having my panels back to where they were. And basically you can combine any configuration of those 5 panels you want. You can have them all 5 together. You could have 4 together and 1 on its own, whatever you want. The sky's the limit. You can customize how those work all you like. The next thing I want to show is how you can view your files over here in the preview pane. And there's a number of different options which are down here in the bottom right corner. The first thing is the thumbnail size slider. You can see that as I drag to the right, my thumbnails get bigger. And as I drag to the left, my thumbnails get smaller. So this is really a preference thing on your part, however big or small you want your images to be, and also what you're doing. If you're going through and trying to locate something specific in a file, you might want to have them, quite large so that you can see the details. If you're organizing your files within a folder, you might want to have them quite small so that you can see the entire contents of the folder at the same time. But as you can see, this slider just gives you so much flexibility to be able to change the preview size. The next thing that you can customize is how you want to view the thumbnails. Right now it's set to thumbnail view, which is the default. And basically that shows me a thumbnail, the file name, and the date and time it was created. If I click the next option, which is film strip view, you can see that it changes slightly so that I have a large image up at the top. And then at the bottom, I can scroll through and see what else is in that folder. If I click an image, it will update the larger preview up at the top. I can also use these little navigation buttons, these forward and back buttons, to take a look at what's in the folder. And you can see that basically I get this little pill-shaped label below the file, which gives the file name. Down here, you can see that we have the file name and we have the date created, and also we have the time created. Now you can see these little tooltips. Basically, as I position my cursor over each image, you saw this in the thumbnails view too, is we get more information about the file. So this type of information is contained in the tooltip. Next, we can choose details view. And this is where you're going to see a lot more detailed information about your files. It's almost actually identical to what we were seeing in the tooltips a couple of seconds ago. So we see our file name, the date created, the date modified, the file size, what type of file it is. If it was taken on a camera that can communicate its camera settings to Adobe Bridge, we'll see it here. You can see that actually this candles.psd file is one of the few in this folder that has that camera setting information. You can see that we also have the pixel dimensions of the file and the resolution, in this case 72 dots per inch. We also see the color space. Now you see color space, RGB color, bumped up here to the right, which is different than the others. And that's just because, as I mentioned, this is the only image that has the camera settings information, so it bumps the color space down a little bit. So that's our details view. Last, we have versions and alternates view. This is for if you're working with Adobe Version Queue, which I don't have installed on this particular folder. If I did, you'd be able to see different versions of the file. So let's just go back to our thumbnails view. And the last thing I want to show before we move on to how to organize our images is this little button right up here to the top, which is called Switch to Compact Mode. If I click that, you can see that basically Adobe Bridge resizes down to the bottom of my screen. Now, if I click Switch to Full Mode, it's going to expand to fill up my entire screen. So the nice thing about this is that if you're working, in Photoshop on a series of images, you can still leave Adobe Bridge open. Let's just switch to Photoshop here. I can still leave Adobe Bridge open and be able to see what's inside of it while I'm working in another application. So this is just a handy view if you want to have it open while you're working with another program. The other thing is that sometimes you just want to have nice small thumbnails to be able to see exactly what's there, and the compact mode is good for that too. So you can see as well when you're in compact mode that you can increase and decrease the size of the thumbnails. So let's just return that to full screen mode and leave this open for the next exercise so that we can take a look in the next movie about how we can actually organize our images from within Adobe Bridge.